Hey everybody, just wanted to do a follow-up vid to my previous unpackaging of this beautiful Warren Thomas RC. I'm going to compare it to a couple other knives I have laying around, and I'll give you guys a weight and an overall dimension on it. Nothing too big. I'm not usually one to go into specs, but the knife's about 8 1/4 inches in total length with a 3 1/8 inch blade. A lot of times you'll notice on the Warren Thomas knives you have a nice carbon fiber or G10 handle slab on one side, with the other side, of course, being the lock side, being all titanium. Since this side never changes, I was fortunate enough to get one in titanium instead of the carbon fiber or G10. I love both those other materials. This is the one Mr. Thomas had on hand. I liked it all, the hardware, this entire knife, the blade, the thumb studs, the screws, the pivot, the handle slabs, every single piece of this knife, other than this disc of G10, which is a lock over travel stop, whatever you want to call it, is made from titanium. The grind is just exquisite. Let's see if I can focus better on his anodizing in the blade. Being that I'm normally quite picky, I'll try to catch us in the light. You'll see that he ground the edge perfectly. Where he rounds that corner, you'll notice that the height of his bevel does not change. That is done amazingly well. And he keeps the same height on his grind all the way to the termination of the grind here. It is slightly blunted in this corner so that if you are choking up on the knife, that point is not digging into you. Very well thought out. This is all anodized. I believe this is his urban camo pattern. Let's see if I can get a little better focus again. This is urban camo. I prefer the alien skin, but again, this is what Mr. Thomas had available. And so I was very happy to get it. This wedge gives it a nice look. What I really wanted was an RC XL, which had a curved outward tanto with a recurve. It's a larger knife, XL being the designation, of course, for that. And I preferred the beauty of that one. This is chisel ground. You see it's all cut off on one side. This is completely flat. This is, let's see if I can do this better with the light again. Sorry, I'm doing all my filmmaking with my phone. Most of you are used to it by now, though. This is where he carbonizes the edge. Makes it look like a very beautiful hamon, the way he does it. He could just make it a straight-ish line. I'm sure he could lay something across there and use a carbonizer to make it pretty symmetrical to his grinds. But in doing it this way, it gives it a very, very beautiful appearance. You'll see Warren's logo here. A flow-through knife. The only thing holding this knife together are these two pivots, and you'll see the blade stop does not have a screw to it for being taken apart. When I was getting the knife from Mr. Thomas, I asked him if he would make me a beautiful carbon fiber scale with his radiused pattern on it for better traction. And he said normally he would quote me a certain price, which was not very expensive at all. I won't say the price in case he was giving me a good deal for a scale, but he needed to know while the knife was being made. Otherwise, to do that for me now, with the way the pivot or the stop pin is in the handle, it would be about 3 times that cost to have that other scale made for this knife. That was expensive. Instead of getting the other scale, I was able to get this for the price difference. So I thought about it. 2 scales for this, or a nice dashie. So, you know what I went with. Alright, in comparison for size, if I lay this, see if I can get them both in screen here. I'm gonna have to change how I'm doing this here. Bear with me a moment. You'll notice the size comparison when put next to a large 21 Sebenza is almost identical. Cutting edge, blade length, handle length, everything. The Warren Thomas model has a much more curve to it, deeper in the choil, with a secondary choil being deeper, because that one's basically for the frame lock divot, and much wider in pivot with another retention for your hand. The ergos are, of course, completely different. I love the ergos of the Sebenza. This thing is like shaking hands with an old friend. It's unbelievable. And of course, it's a much more vicious blade. This is basically more of a self-defense flesh ripper. It doesn't hold as keen of an edge as a standard edge does with this carbidizing, but it's also a good working blade. It's like a mini hacksaw. You can really get through some stuff with this. It's basically like it's mini serrations all the way through it. Secondly, I think I'm going to see if I can get this in film here. Give me a second. I'll try to adjust this tripod. All right, see if we can get lucky and make this work. Or see if we can get lucky and make this work. This knife, .2 ounces. And we'll just double check the scale. 5.2. Not bad for such a large blade. Put the carbon Sebenza up against it. 3.7. You have a lot less material, and although this blade is S30V or S35VN with titanium and carbon fiber, this has the Warren Thomas has a lot more material. Check it against my Zan 5 even. The funny thing is this 5 even feels heavier than that 5.2. I know most people can't tell 0.2 ounces. I'm not saying I can. But the Zan feels like 3 ounces heavier in your hand than this Warren Thomas does. It's very hard to explain. This carries very light. My only complaint on the entire knife would be I'm a little concerned I'm going to guillotine one of my appendages in here. And I'm not exactly thrilled with being able to see the lock bar work through that hole. It's not bad. It's almost like jeweling. Don't get me wrong. It's still beautiful, but those would be my only complaints on this entire knife. So there it is. I give you a weight size comparison. I guess we give you a size comparison against the Zan, because that's very similar to the 21 as well. In that regard, the is just slightly longer, I believe. So there you have it. Just a few more thoughts, a little bit more info on this beautiful knife. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, stay safe.